Right. Welcome to the Aro Benaiah Show, where we spotlight blue collar entrepreneurs, street people, and leaders who has built with their hands and their grit and their vision. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Kurt Uhola, known as the king of scaling company. He's a global CMO operator, investor, and servant leaders who has helped lead over 60 acquisition and exit, support $1 billion growth stories, and built team that thrive both in business and at home. It's really a privilege having you on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having
God, so what was it like growing up?
I grew up with a dad that was blue collar, kind of using that term. He worked for a big technology company, but implementing the plans that electrical engineers and other people created. And so he ran teams in different cities in the United States. And so I got to see a lot of people using their hands. But when I was 14, had to start two companies legally in the United States, and one of them was a lawn care business, so very much in the home services space. And so, what you can do, by your blood, sweat, and tears to go and grow that
Yeah.
was very successful in growing that. I had to form that because I had 12 people on payroll.
Wow.
Quickly became 14 people that year. Not all of them were full
Yeah.
time, but got to very much kind of see what does that look like when every sale you get, as long as you can figure out a system to deliver on it, you could put more cash in your pocket.
Yeah.
That is not where I have ended up, though. So
Yeah.
I ended up very much on the technology side. A lot of times, and I think we'll talk about with businesses that are say in real estate or with home
Yeah.
services. I actually work with a lot of home services people now, where I may be selling to larger providers, but I'm seeing either individuals or people that we're individuals and might have 20 or 30 people on their home services team or real estate
Yeah.
salespeople. And so while that's not necessarily my world and has not been for the last 20 years, that's often who's ultimately benefiting and what we're building
Yeah.
things to benefit.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. It's really amazing. So more like I think during the course of you introducing yourself growing up, and you make reference of the fact that you actually even started to business that involve more like handy job. What actually inspired you to be an entrepreneur? Do you always see yourself as an entrepreneur growing up? Or more like what was those early experience that actually get you started in the path of entrepreneurship?
I did not consider myself an entrepreneur, and I definitely don't now, even though I do start some things on the side. I'm really good at operations and systems. And so, like, I got off a call earlier today with a somebody who's in the entertainment space. We'll just leave it at that. It's not public yet, but has a technology he started to build but needed help. And I was literally brokering a conversation for him with a technical co-founder because they've done so much with part-time help. And so, like, I was brokering that conversation because they need systems and they need people that can walk through. That's what I was actually really good at. And so I've always been a technologist. And so, I mean, I got into technology. I started those two companies, but I had a job literally at 14 separate from those
Wow.
companies because I had got caught hacking 232 federal servers. And so that thrust me into a different type of technology world. I literally got in that lawn care business because I wanted money to be able to do things as most people do growing
Yeah.
up. And my dad said, "Hey, you can use my lawnmower, and if you can go mow some people's lawns." And I was really good at knocking on doors,
Okay.
and I did not care if people said no. And so I did not consider myself an entrepreneur. I'm a chief marketing officer now. I don't consider myself a marketer. I'm just really good at connecting with people and then building the systems to deliver on that. I mean, the reason I hired people, so I'm like, I don't necessarily consider myself an entrepreneur. I only spent like 30 or 45 days selling lawn care business and trimming bushes and cleaning gutters by myself before I quickly went, I cannot deliver on all of this myself. And so literally I went, if I want these people to pay me money and be happy that they're paying me money, I have to have somebody else helping me deliver. And well, the moment you cross over
Yeah.
that, you go, wait a second, if I knock on more doors, if I make sure that the service is delivered on and everybody's happy, then all I need to do is get more people that can help me do those services.
Yeah. Yeah. That was really amazing.
I don't consider myself an entrepreneur. I mean, from a corporate job perspective, nobody wants to hire an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. But on the other side, I think the best people that are entrepreneurs or that grow home services and blue collar businesses, like they don't the best people don't consider themselves
Yeah,
business owners. They're just wanting to figure out like, oh, I have something that I can do. It makes you happy and you'll pay me
yeah,
money for it. At that point, like pretty quickly, you will cap out on the amount of hours that you can spend.
yeah.
And that forces you to become a business.
Yeah, so true, so true. I think from your stories, what actually interests me the most was the fact that, yeah, at such an early age, you actually get started. Like, you're already thinking more of, you're already thinking of, yeah, high, but like way, way, way ahead compared to the solopreneur, those who just get started. And the fact that you're able to kind of balance a whole lot of stuff and have a whole lot of team alongside why you were doing that. But before you actually more like dive into doing that, did you actually work with your dad growing up before you actually more like jump into those or that or little other business that you actually spearhead yourself?
I had, but only because I was really good at math. And my
Mm.
dad had taken me into this large technology company called Bell Labs at like 8 or 9.
Oh,
And I solved some math problems and he made sure he billed for them. But I never actually, I didn't work with my dad until much later in life, where as a side hustle for
yeah.
me, my brother and I had started a large e-commerce business, what became a large e-commerce business. And we had one time quite a few brick and mortar stores. And my dad was like, he had retired, which I don't think in most parts of the world, retirement is not a real thing until as long as you can
Yeah.
work. And it shouldn't be a thing in the US. And so I saw that my dad was like, he was bothered about sitting around and not adding value. And we were like, well, if we opened another store, would you manage it? Because having somebody manage a store with cash, like you need somebody you can trust. And he was like, that sounds fun. And we went through a couple rounds with that where he'd do it and then take a few more years off in retirement thinking he wanted to do that and be like, well, actually, I want to go back to the store. I like talking to people. And so, I mean, I was much older in life before my dad actually worked for my
Yeah.
brother and me.
Wow, wow, amazing, amazing. Thanks for that. I think the story is really, really very interesting and captivating too. You have been part of more than 60 acquisition and even $1 billion exits. Looking back, what personal experience gave you the resilience to handle that level of growth and change?
I got help at first. And so, so that lawn care business, I was going to just shut it down when I went to college or university because that's not what I thought. I didn't actually, looking back, I kind of wish I would have just let that be my business. But to my mind, I'm going to college in another state. And so you just shut that business down. And we had an old timer in the rescue squad. I volunteered with the rescue squad that heard me say that to somebody and was like, sir, you have enough business, you can sell that. And so he walked me through how to do that. And so I literally sold that lawn care business
Wow,
for a good amount of money, which gave me a taste for it. But then as I got into technology, everything that I have really cared about has really come down to if I'm really good at creating value, people will pay me money. And so we were at a company that was growing quickly. We made a number of investments, and then we ended up investing in and buying a number of companies. And so it helped me just be part of that. And so that's actually part of the value that people get when they bring me onto their board for their company or an advisory side is I can help them understand what an acquisition would look like one day, because if you're going to sell your company, people usually don't want you to stay at the company. I mean, and so you have to have it packaged up so
yeah,
that it could run without you. And so I can see that ahead. And thankfully, most entrepreneurs and most, especially in like the blue collar space, they're really good at what they've done in creating value, but they haven't thought about creating a business. And so while I may not advise those people, I love coming in and talking to people where it's like, what would this have to look like for somebody wanting to want to give you money and you go away at some point?
wow, wow, wow. Yeah, so true, so true. I think the fact that before you actually more like go to college and you're able to kind of set that particular business, it just exposed. I think it exposed you to another level of yeah, apart from just being handy, more like you're not thinking about exiting a business, working on it, and yeah, that was really really amazing. And also another part that got me from your story is the fact that you make reference of when you actually started the little side work you were actually more like doing. You were knocking on a couple of jobs for jobs. How did you actually learn that particular? Because I know sometimes when it gets to the point of marketing, reaching out and knocking on doors, it's quite very demanding. What was your mindset as at then when you were actually reaching out? Because I know for most persons who are just starting out, sometimes some of them have some levels of skills that's yeah, with that particular skill they will actually create values to the real world, but they find it demanding when it comes to selling themselves out there. And so I want to know more like what is an understanding that actually make it easier for you to go all out towards reaching out and selling yourself out there.
I mean, I was 14 when I was selling selling lawn services, and so at that point, it was just I wanted money to be able to go on dates and do things with my friends, and, maybe buy some toys for myself, and so at that point, it was at first it was just every door I knock on, if they say yes, I'm going to get $40 to $60 a month from them, and so and knowing that most people either were already in that case mowing the lawn themselves or that may have already had somebody that they were using. And so most people were going to say no. I accepted that up
Hmm.
front. And so I didn't have that emotions where, hey, if I go knock on one door or the next 10 doors, I just accepted that the majority of those people were going to say no. And so I shouldn't be bothered if they say no. And instead, the first person I knocked on, because when you're a kid, you tend to work right
Yeah.
around you, was in our neighborhood. And I used my full name and they went, "Oh, you just live down the street. If you could trim the bushes and maybe some lower tree branches." And I didn't realize then, I've really taken this to heart later, but I mean, if people want to give you money, the proper response is always it needs to be more or yes. Because like you've offered something and they want to give you money for it, you should say yes to that. And so it wasn't what I offered them, which was I was thinking I was going to come back every week
Yeah.
and mow your lawn, but I was like, I could do this and you'll give me money for it. And so the first few sales were actually they went very easy for me. But has really kept me going later in life, not necessarily in home services, but like I made a lot of money, ended up selling this company as well when the internet was early in like that 1999, 2000, 2001 frame where I was building websites for people and I made a lot of money hosting those websites. And same thing, I knew I could do it. And I went and knocked on a couple of doors and they said yes. And in that case, I was selling websites to accountants, financial planners, or estate planners, people that are helping people as plan for death. And I knew this already was when I knocked on the first one that said yes, every one that I knocked on next. So every time I knocked on the next accountant, the next financial planner, I said, "Hey, Amanda, the financial planner down the street, I'm building her site. Can I build your site?" And that was early in that case, so people didn't have. They knew they were going to need a
Yeah.
website, but I used the credibility of clients that I actually hadn't
Yes.
built site for yet, but I'd already sold, and that came across. And I had done that earlier with home services because we expanded beyond just like doing lawn care and kind of things like that. And so that's carried through to me, and actually that's actually why I'm a really good marketer at the big corporate scale, because I find, to your point about like how do you go and market it. So this is really good for the people that are selling to you, if or that you're selling your audience. You can be a better marketer than most marketers. And so the secret nobody tells you when you see somebody as a chief marketing officer or their marketing manager is most marketers for business to consumer companies or business companies selling to other businesses are not actually good marketers. What they are is salespeople that are too scared to call people because they don't want to get that no. And so they get into this place of marketing because they can write emails or build website copy, but they're scared to talk to people. And so I'm the exact opposite. And the best marketers I know at big companies are actually have no problem talking to customers. They have no problem with people saying no because I know that the potential customers I talk to that say no, I'm going to learn the most from
Yeah.
them. I want to talk to the customers. Like, so now I work at a company called Easy Home Search. So we can talk about that. So we have like a home services directory. And so people across the United States that have these businesses, that's one of the things they come to us for. Well, I have no problem talking to our existing customers because I want to know Are they actually using us? What are their value? Most marketers don't want to do that. And so, as a home services provider, blue collar work, like you can do the work, but you also know the pain you're solving for people. And so, you're going to be a good marketer the way that I was a good marketer because you have no problem talking to people to know what they
Yeah.
actually need. Like in the case of lawn care, there's a lot of things that you're going to charge for. You should hopefully have that reoccurring, revenue about, hey, you come and mow the lawn and edge and do whatnot. But hey, a couple times a year they might need mulch put down or wood chips, or they might not want to pay for wood chips from the big box store, but hey, there's places in the United States that people will come deliver a truckload of free wood chips that you could help them do, but they're still going to need somebody to spread it. So
Yeah.
twice a year, you can get an upsell charge there. And so you can be the best marketer by talking to your current customers and saying, what else could I help you with? And then do you have friends I could help? If you've made them really happy, if this has been effortless, like that's why I was a good marketer. That's what most people don't do. They just show up once a week and mow the lawn and never talk to anybody else.
Yeah, so true, so true. I think the fact that you just make reference of it and laying down the blueprints of what marketing is from your end, being more like reaching out to customer, getting more feedback, and yeah, even if they say no, there are still a whole lot of things you can learn from them. It just doesn't mean that a whole lot of jobs in terms of referrals and other stuff have come basically from the fact that I talk to them, and even after the job is still done, I keep talking to see more like what other
Right.
solution would they want me to provide. How would they rate my job from 1 to 10? And sometimes while they were even saying it, they make reference of some salient point that I didn't think was
Right.
actually more like actually speak volume to them. And the fact that owing to those particular chit chats, sometimes it actually even how will I say it now? It even kind of take the relationship to another level, being that it shows so much that I care, and that particular more like act of reaching out even make most of them trust me so much that they even give me a whole lot of referrals, more like openly, more like talk about what I do, into the fact that they know that I
Right.
really care beyond just doing the job one time and I thought about not showing up within the space anymore. And the way you just make reference of it really speak volume. Because before now, I can't even put it to book like this, but hearing it from you just make me know that this was actually what was at working. Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely. And I mean, the best part of marketing for me, especially with anything home services related or working with individuals, real estate agents, the best real estate agents do this as well, but is just being friendly and helpful. And
Yeah,
so if we'll stay with the lawn care example. And so like with that, my house in Roswell, Georgia in the States, I mow my own lawn partially because we have two little kids, and the best way that I found to teach them hard work, and I've heard from people much older than me, is they need to see you working. Because anything that I do with my laptop, my kids think I'm playing a game, basically. And so I mow my own lawn because I want my 6-year-old boy to grow up knowing what work looks like. Well, so my neighbors on each side and across the street all have somebody that mows their own lawn and does their bushes and other things. 3 different people that come at least weekly, and none of those 3 people have ever introduced themselves to me. And I can guarantee that the reason they haven't is because they have seen me mowing my lawn, and so they assume I'm not a customer because they see me. I have my own lawnmower, I have all my own equipment, so I mow my own lawn. What? But that's actually not true. And so we, as a individual, like you have to go and talk to people, even just to be friendly. You don't have to sell. It would be silly to come say, "Hey, can I mow your lawn? I charge X dollars a month, and here's my card." If, on the other hand, any of them stop me and they even started saying, "Hey, I know that you mow your own lawn. You take care of your own property. If you ever get sick, if you're ever gone, if you need help to fill in when
yeah,
you're not available, I just want you to know I'm available. Shoot me a text message, let me know." I guarantee I would have given one of those 3 people some amount of money over the last 7 years I lived in this house. Because instead, what I do is go, well, I know that they have people, but now I'd have to text my neighbor or talk to them. And again, and so instead, what I just do is I delay. And so maybe I don't mow my lawn if I'm traveling for a
yeah,
week or something. If, on the other hand, the gentleman that mows the lawn, next door had introduced themselves and just did that simple. I know you're not a customer, but if I could ever help, I would
Yeah.
have saved his information to my
So
phone
true.
and I would have texted him at least once. And then how easy is it then to get into a habit then where it's like, I mean, I just don't want to do it right now. And so then they might have actually picked up a regular customer, but they at least would have picked up some revenue a couple times a year when I might be otherwise busy. And so that's what good marketing and sales looks like is just being friendly
Yeah.
when you're already servicing your customers, not just upselling them, but being friendly to other people around.
Wow, this is really, really amazing. I think the fact that you just even analyzing it using your own standpoint, it just make me feel guilty about a whole lot of things I've lost owing to the fact that I couldn't reach out and I couldn't get to pitch out what I do, and you just actually explaining it just shows me in the picture where I got it wrong, which is really, really key. More like, because sometimes just the way you just make reference of, I just idolize the fact that the client already have figured out. We don't need to actually more like not knowing that, just be friendly alone and just say, yeah, whenever you just need the happy hands, yeah, we are here for you to actually more like do the job. And I think that actually even remove the burden from you compared to you reaching out on your own way again without any of them reaching out. I think this really speak volume if every because sometimes I even discover that if one workman is actually more like getting to work here and he sees similar problem over there, what they usually have figured out is the fact that let me just do the better job for Mr. A. If it's so good that it cannot be ignored, Mr. A will refer to Mr. B, not knowing that Mr. A does not necessarily need to have relationship with Mr. B. Whereas you can just go directly there and just pitch what you actually get to do, which make it easier and uh, remove all the route and everything that needed to be done about getting the job done. And the way you just analyze it, just speak volume to we just reaching out. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And that being helpful, it's like I gave one example. There are so many more
Yeah,
examples where you think about what is not selling, but could be both showcasing what you do
yeah,
or but also showcasing what you do. Like we all know when you're doing blue collar work, then if you're not working, then you're not getting paid.
yeah,
Well, there's also that part there where, especially when you're getting started, or if you have more bandwidth, and whether you're a solo entrepreneur or you have people on your team, well, if you're not booked for the day and you're servicing something, like are there other opportunities there? And so this happened to somebody in the neighborhood, and so everywhere in the world, usually there's something about when the family has a new baby,
yeah,
they let others know it somehow.
yeah.
So like in the States, you'll see balloons out of the mailbox or a blue ribbon or pink ribbon. Well, they had somebody who stopped by in the case of mowing the lawns that literally stopped by, and I'm guessing that they just weren't booked for the rest of the day and just said, "Hey, knock knock, I do your neighbor's lawn. No, I'm not trying to sell you. Can I, I have time. Could I mow your lawn just as a blessing or a gift because you have a new time?" Now, I'm assuming that they just weren't booked for the rest of the
Yeah.
day. So what? It cost them 50 cents to maybe $1 in gas, and they mowed a lawn for free. That's
Hmm.
now a client of them. On the other case, I have a friend who's a general contractor, so remodel home, build homes. I happened to pull up to his home and I was like, wow, your driveway looks incredible. How that happened was somebody that did pressure washing was being paid to pressure wash his neighbor's house, had enough hose length. I don't know if it was from the neighbor or if they brought their own hose, but literally knocked on the door and just said, "Hey, I'm pressure washing their driveway and the gutters and the streets. And, not doing driveways for free, but would it be okay just if I went ahead and just did your gutters as well, so that the street?" So they did literally just the gutters of the street on each house side on the side across from or next to the person that they were doing. Well, one of those, my friend who is the general contractor, was like, "Well, that'd be great." And so all he did was just left a card in the mailbox after he was done. And so my friend called him up just because then he like, I don't remember if it was him or his wife, but neighbor had the work done. Driveway that's been cleaned looks great. The street looked good. And you noticed then when those gutters have been cleaned. And it was just like, wow. Called up and it was like, $60 to come do the driveway when it was a fill-in, different if you schedule
Wow.
the time. And like that was a great
Yeah.
thing. It probably took an extra 7 minutes to do that.
Yeah, so true. Wow, this is really, really profound. I think if every man like every handyman get to do this every now and then, I think we'll run out. Yeah, who would say there's any free time, because there always going to be, because there's going to be a whole lot of goodwill and things about them referring you to more business deal, owing to the fact that you have actually extended and happy hands, and actually more like getting that things done from their own particular end. Because even if they end up not actually more like calling you back to do their job, they will definitely refer you like with so much confidence that you don't even need to actually do much, and they really speak volume.
Right.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, and so those examples, people may be listening to your show that they say, "Well, that's not my business," and it's like, okay, if you're cleaning homes, it's not going to be quite as easy. But what I want people is to ask themselves a question of, okay, if you're cleaning houses as an example, or doing ductworks, or
Yeah,
cleaning windows, like the examples I gave may not flow through
yeah,
exactly, but if the attitude I want people, your
yeah,
listeners, to
yeah,
have is looking for being friendly with the neighbors of your clients when you're doing
yeah.
work, saying hi. Like, of the three houses I mentioned that have different people mowing lawns, only one of them waves and even acknowledges I'm a human. And so, like, the other two have never even made eye contact with me. And so, like, if I was going to do the
Yeah,
effort to go find somebody, I'm gonna call the guy who at least waves and says hi every time.
yeah. I think this really speaks volume. I think the fact that you just make reference of different business might have their own different model. I think mean that every trade persons and local entrepreneurs knows much about their business. I think looking at this particular idea is for them to sit with it and see, and just say to themselves, viewing their service as more like a product, that okay, what is the smallest viable product I can actually give out to my clients that will not cost me much, but still will actually speak volume in terms of what I do, and the fact that it's going to kind of create this synergy in a relationship with those particular potential clients, which they are not their client yet. I think it's just more like asking the same question alone can actually trigger a whole lot of possibility of what you as the workman, you be as the local entrepreneur, what you could do differently to actually more like gain more traction to what you do. Other than just, yeah, I think this really speak volume, because I'm already seeing different pattern of how it can be applied in various fields at all. Only if they're actually willing to just sit down with themselves and say, okay, what is the little viable product I can actually more like put in place, even if there is not much, but definitely being that they're not going to pay, just a helping hands. No one will turn you down from helping them. So it's really a whole lot of way of actually gaining more traction among potential clients. Yeah, thank you, Kurt. Leadership is a word that gets used a lot. How did your leadership philosophy evolve from those early jobs to now being known as a champion of servant leadership?
It can't. So that's an interesting thing. So, from a work perspective, people that worked for me would not have considered me a servant leader at all. Very much, I was the authoritative leader from a work perspective. So everything we've talked about, service
Yeah.
and helping people, I felt that way towards my customers,
Hmm.
but I didn't feel that way as the boss. And so even at 14, like, hey, if you missed mowing a lawn and you were scheduled to do it, there was no questioning about why. I was going to be that hard ass that was coming down on you and threatening you with your job if you didn't let me know about it ahead of time. Um, but I had the service towards my customers, but from a work perspective, that just was not me. And I had a number of things change within my life that I realized, gosh, I'm missing so much opportunities. And I'm having people leave as well. In some cases, I was ruining families because I was making people work so many hours and stuff because I cared about them doing exactly what I told them to do. And what I realized that a mentor walked me through was, Kurt, you've hired zero people on your team to do a job. You've hired them to reach a business outcome that the job you're hired, the activity that they're doing, the actions they're doing are going to give you the outcomes you want. In the home services business, hey, you're hiring people underneath you to do work that maybe you've sold. Well, that's actually not, you're not hiring them to go mow that lawn. When we say that example, you're hiring them to make sure that's a happy customer that keeps paying you and will refer you and do those other things. So at the end of the day, you are hiring them to do actions. But at the moment I need to realize, gosh, what changed for me was to say, no, I'm hiring you to make that a happy customer. And so when I do that, things shift. And so the case of home services and how this shifted for me was I realized, gosh, you may be the best person working for me, but something might come up. Not just you might get sick. You might have a spouse that gets sick short term, long term. You get thrust into elder care, having to take care of a grandparent or a parent that's older. You might have a kid that's really sick. And so when you shift to that servant leadership perspective, what realizes is I'm yes, I do have short-term activities that need to be done, but I want you to be productive for me and to reach my business outcomes over longer periods, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 5 years. And so if I create an environment that says, look, my job is actually to help you and to serve you reach the business outcomes that I want, well, then you're going to call me
Yeah.
to say something happened and this is what that's going to look like. In my world in marketing, so we'll shift outside of your blue collar entrepreneurs. I had a woman who worked for me. Her dad had worked for me before. Walked out of a meeting with her doctor, knowing she was going to go into surgery. She called me before she called. She was a little bit younger. She called me before she called her parents to tell about the surgery because she wanted me to know that, hey, I'm not going to be able to be at a desk in the way that you've kind of met me with before. And so I'm going to have probably 6 to 12 weeks where I could still do my job, but not fully. But I'm open to doing different things that work better. And that gave me time to be able to think about, are there other activities in my team? I had a large team, a 30-person team. And so I ended up finding other things that she could do that were actually more valuable for the 3 months she was recovering. And so that when she came out of full recovery, that actually became the majority of her job because it was something that I was doing that was on my plate. In short term, I wanted to make sure she was there to do her normal job over the year. And I found something that I thought was going to be like a filler job but still add value to the company. And what I realized was, oh my gosh, she's actually so much more valuable to the
Woo.
business outcomes I want doing this job replacement job that I put her into. So I backfilled her job instead. And that was only because I created an environment where
Yeah.
she felt safe enough calling and saying, I'm not going to be able to show up to work for like 2 to 3 months. And I was like that was one of the moments, even though I had been that way from a leadership perspective, that really came out to me because I knew her dad. And her dad was my friend as well and had worked for me. And I'm like, you called me before you called him. That's a wonderful environment from a service perspective that if you have that created with your
Yeah.
team, those people aren't showing up to do a job for a few hours. They're wanting to help make you successful because they know that you have their back.
Yeah, so true. This is really, really amazing, and the illustration really speaks volumes to the fact that more like, apart from just more like doing your job, hiring people, having more like a culture where yeah, they could easily reach out to actually discuss most of this particular stuff. It's very, very key. And the fact that you make reference of these particular points where you were saying that earlier on, when you actually more like handling your job, it was more of they doing as you actually more like make reference of, not doing anything outside that. That actually transpired to the fact that anytime you're not there, they will almost be calling you, being that, what should I do next? What should I do next? Compared to just leaving them actually more like doing their thing. I think that's very, very key, and we speak volume to servant leadership that you actually make reference of. So for younger trade people or entrepreneurs listening, what is the common mistake do you see them making when trying to grow their business or and to move up in terms of leadership? Oh. Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, Cut, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Oh, frozen again. There we go. I think we're back.
Yes, we are back. It's good to have you on the show. The network just kicked me out at one point. I think the network is a bit poor at my
Oh,
end.
I lost audio.
Can you hear me? Your video is off. Your video is turned off. Yeah, can you hear me, Cut?
No,
Hello, hello, can you hear me?
I heard you for a minute.
Okay, your video is not popping up. It's just stuck. Ooh, yeah, can you hear me now? Yeah, hello, Cut. Are you still there? Yeah, are you still there? Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it's the network from my end. They just took the light, and I have to switch back from using Starlink to my normal network. Yeah, you can hear me, right? Can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me now? Yeah, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, hello, Kurt. Can you hear me now? It seems everything is perfect now. Ooh, can you hear me now? Uh, okay. You can't still hear me, right? Okay, I'm coming. Let me log in and log out. I'm coming. Just give me a few minutes.
Maybe
Yeah, can you hear me now?
I can.
Oh, amazing. You can't hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Oh. The network on my end was a bit bad at one point, and it just kicked me out
Oh,
of the studio.
yeah, I've got. I say you
All
broke up
right.
for just a minute, but I do hear you.
Okay. Uh, can we just continue?
Sure.
All right. You actually more like maker an analogy when I actually more like ask the question that for younger trade people or entrepreneur listening, what is the common mistake do you see? What common mistake do you see them make? And when it comes to growing in terms of their leadership and growing their business.
The two biggest I see two big mistakes. The first mistake is that they think that they're right. And I just say that in terms of they get in their business to a certain place, or they think a certain type of marketing works, or that they're the only ones that can do something. Whatever it is, they think that they're right about something, and they're not willing to ask on a regular basis, like perhaps even a daily basis, what might I be wrong about in my business? Now, it doesn't mean that you're like the majority of their time you're not going to find something you're wrong about, but just I literally every single day will ask myself, what might I be wrong about in my business today? Something that I think I'm right about. And so, in my
Wow.
case, because I have people that work for me, I'm voicing that to them because I'm wanting them to know that one, I'm acknowledging I might be wrong, but I'm wanting them to be able to come to me with ideas that might not be a good idea, but they're still, we have that communication. So when you're a solo entrepreneur and you're asking yourself, what might I be wrong about? And especially when you're your own, the only person working at your company, you may have to be more systematic. What do I think is limiting for me from a sales perspective or a doing perspective? So you may have to be more limiting, but just being asking that every day. And the second thing is they're not documenting what they're doing so that they could hand it off. Like I hear so often from people that uh, I mean, some cases are marketing consultants or home services people where the reason that they think they can't hire somebody is because, well, nobody does it as well as I do. Well, if you went and actually watched them, you would see that when you show up to the client, you knock on their door to see if they're home. You don't just start mowing, and maybe you shake their
Yeah.
hand or you ask them if there's anything else. But you may do things in a certain way that you've never told somebody else. So if you had lawn care clients and they just show up and do the work and leave, but you instead interact in some way or you do other things, you wave to the neighbors, well, those are things you literally just need to document. I don't care if it's on a piece of paper
Yeah.
or in a Google document and says, when I show up to a client, this is what I do. If I ever see a neighbor, I smile, wave, and say hi.
Yeah.
I pause and I put down my leaf blower until somebody walks by walking. Like all of those little things that you might do instinctually, you need to have written down so that when you hire somebody, you can have them follow that recipe that you have found that works. Or now maybe you already have a couple people working for your business that you can start to walk through and say, hey, here's the things that I'm still doing that other people aren't. And so like I say that because I've seen people grow like tree cutting businesses where they were just documenting that says they showed to their people. You have people that climb and they have people that cut trees and people that chip. And they had a list of things for their that they showed to their team that said, here are other things in my business that I do. And so one of their tree climbers said, oh, you're spending so much time scheduling. My wife could do that for you
Yeah, I can still
if you
hear you.
wanted to pay her. So, all right, see if we're back.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, sorry. The network is better off now. They just brought the light and I just connected to my Starlink compared to
All
how
right.
it was earlier on. Sorry for the little distortion that happened during the course of the meeting.
That is okay. One of the nice things about the platform
Yeah,
you're
can you hear me
using
now?
is it will still upload my answer.
Okay, you can hear me now, right?
Yes.
Okay, they just brought the light and my Starlink is working now. Yeah, I think the fact that you make reference of they don't ask and two they didn't actually more like document in terms of their processes and how they do what they do. Yeah, that really spoke volume. And I think the last point I didn't get the last point uh before there was a little distortion in terms of the meeting.
Yeah, that will still upload, but my part of that was then sharing what you're still doing as you're with other people that are working for you as so you have documented things, other people are working well. And so I kind of mentioned one of the examples I saw is I know a gentleman that's got a tree cutting business, and
Yeah.
the woman that now follows up with clients and does schedules and follows that up is the wife of one of his tree climbers that goes up simply because he had documented what he does outside of their roles. And somebody looked at it and said, well, my wife could do those things. You don't have an office, but she could do that from home. And so the nice thing about that is being open with your team. And even if there's nothing that comes back, it still gives them a little bit of viewpoint into what you're doing that helps pay their bills to provide for their families.
Yeah, amazing, amazing, amazing. Thanks for that. You have built high trust in terms. Yeah, you have built high trust across our industries. What is one lesson about building people that apply just as much as 5 persons shop as it does to a $1 billion company?
I mean, for me, everything really does come down to just to documenting and then being able to hand off as much as you can profitably. And I say profitably is like, especially for your audience, too many people to get into a trap where they think they have to spend every dollar that they get, new dollar that they get. And so the thing should always be, and I do this at companies that are earning hundreds of millions of dollars, and you should do this if you're a solo entrepreneur to businesses. You need to make sure as you're growing that you're making money and putting it in your pocket and not spending it yourself.
Yeah,
Because I think what happens for all blue collar businesses is whether it's just you, especially if you have other people working for you, something is going to happen, whether COVID happens and everything shuts down, but like you want to have money in the bank. And so be keenly aware of like the people that work for you, you're providing for their families. And so
yeah,
I want you to make money as the owner of the business, not just for you, but so that when things slow down, you can provide some margin for the business to recover, and that's not going to be there if you're always just running on very tight
yeah.
margins. Like at the end of the day, like somebody's car is going to break down. And so like what does that look like? I mean, I've seen people before where you may not tell your employees this, but like I've seen people like in the real estate space where I mean, most people do not profit first in their individually. And so this was somebody that was running about a 15, 20 person team for selling real estate in the United States. And a member of their team car broke down, which is really important when you're selling,
Mhm.
taking people to buy new properties. And their kind of response was, I can't do my job anymore. Well, because they had been focused on profit first, they stepped up and said, hey, like I'll buy you. Like there wasn't they couldn't fix their car. They didn't have the money to go buy a new car. And so the person who owned the real estate brokerage said, I will buy you a new car. I'm not going to give it to you right now, but I will buy you a new car. And assuming that you keep delivering the way that you did over the last,
Mhm.
year or two, I will give you the car title at that point.
Yeah, wow,
They
wow.
only were able to do that because they managed their business and their personal money to provide for that, so that they were able to do that. And so they kept a really good real estate sales agent at that time.
Wow, wow, amazing, amazing. I think this really speaks volume because most times when company fold up, they fold up as a result of there is no cash inflow, there is no more like any key asset to actually offset them when things become demanding, being that they didn't actually keep anything aside while running the business. And what you just said just speak volume. So, scaling up to break company, what pattern do you see in organization that successfully scale compared to those that stall out?
The servant leadership is a really big piece for me, and part of that is, I mean, I mentioned a little bit is the people on your team need to not just feel like they're showing up to get their paycheck. They need to feel blessed by working for you. And so when that's the case and they feel like you actually care about them, then they want you to succeed. And so it doesn't matter about how much money you earn versus them. They want you to succeed because you care about them and you're providing for them. So that means that they're also looking for opportunities out there. And when you pair that with hiring people that have a bias towards action and that they're willing to come up to you and say, hey, I see you're still doing this, or I see this is holding back the business. Could I do that and help? You've hired me to do this. Can I do this as well? Well, that's the attitude you want in people. Like I never want to hire people whether they're sitting behind a laptop or if they
But what is one major failure in your career that have shaped the way you?
I mean, I've failed many times. I'd say the biggest failure to be, and this is going to feel a little ethereal or generic, is I've stepped into roles at times because I thought that they were the it's what I needed, what I was supposed to do. So rather than what I'm good at or what I enjoy. And so there are cases where earlier in my career and other times I've taken on roles because maybe the company needed it, but it wasn't the best thing for me. And so one of those examples was, I stepped into, while I have founded some things on the side, I don't enjoy being the CEO. I'm much better as a kingmaker or a queenmaker. And so that's one of the things for me that and I was at another company where our chief product officer left, and so I was named a chief product officer as well as my main role. And so I took on that. And while I in my cases I do work a lot in product and helping build things, I don't need to be the person that's managing the roadmap for the product. And so those are cases where I did not look at where my skills were are best and stay confined to kind of that.
what practice or habits help you stay grounded and avoid burnout while leading in a high level team?
Intentional rest and making sure that my team takes intentional rest as well. So it's very easy when you're a high performer to want to keep working and to just put in as many hours as possible. And if you're married, if you have kids, you will fail at your family life if you put in too many hours. But even as an individual, like a single person, like there's yes, if you put in more hours than somebody that doesn't, you are more likely to be successful to a point. And so we all have some level of energy that we have to recharge with. And so I think you have to know yourself. And so some people, they need to have that one-on-one time where they're outdoors or they're with exercise. I have other friends that have a different source where they pull energy from, and they pull energy from spending personal time with friends. But so if they're not doing that, then they're much more likely to burn out in their day job. And so they
Oh,
intentionally plan for that.
yeah, intentionally actually more like playing out, not just for you alone, but for your crew. I think that really speaks volume. Yeah, thank you very much, Kurt. So finally, Kurt, where can my audience connect with you, learn more about servant leadership guide, and also what other things can they actually, where can they learn from you, and if they are going to reach out, which platform is better for them to reach out?
So my personal website at kurtuhlir.com is the best place to connect with me, and it'll link you to any of the other places. If you want more of a personal
Okay.
viewpoint, it's going to send you an Instagram or it'll send you a LinkedIn. But especially for anyone in home services in the United States, at Z is in zebra, ezhomesearch.com. We literally have a home services directory where we have millions of people that come to our website, and we connect them to people that are part of our directory. And so people are needing a handyman or a repair person or a plumber. And so that's a great way to connect to me or my team as well.
If you are going to leave them with the final word, what is it going to be?
I think for everybody, it's just like service and caring about people is what's going to help them grow their business.
Wow, caring about people is what is going to help them grow their business. I think this just people because if you view service business as we're actually caring for others, we'll go beyond. In fact, we'll have a whole lot of our great friends around, which translate to getting more better deals, and yeah, a lot of referrals compared to having to be kind of about doing one thing or the other towards getting trade compared to just winning friends who are actually more like find it more like as privilege to even reach out and tell others about us owing to the experience we make them feel. Yeah, thank you so much, Scott. So, Scott,
Great
thank you
talking
for
with you.
bringing not just our strategy, but heart and honesty to this conversation. Your story showed that scaling company isn't just about numbers, it's about people, trust, and leadership that serve. To my audience, remember growth starts with building yourself and serving those around you. Go check Court Servant Leadership Guide at Court at Court uh, at courtyola.com. It's a powerful resources to help you win both at work and at home. Until next time, keep building, keep serving, keep believing in the value of your hands and your vision. Thank you.